Author Zane Carroll Judson, better known by his writing name of Ned Buntline, was known for his dime novels, his run-ins with the law, and a long-barreled Colt .45 during his colorful life. He ran away from home at the age of 12 and joined a freighter sailing for the Caribbean as a cabin boy. He later became a midshipman under General Zachary Taylor at the age of 15 and was involved in the Seminole War in Florida. He started writing short works about his time at sea and had some success as a writer. In 1845, Buntline collected a bounty of $600 by single-handedly capturing 2 men wanted for murder at Eddyville, Kentucky. In March of the following year, he shot and killed Robert Porterfield, the husband of one of his teenage admirers, at Nashville after a duel. Arrested, Buntline vainly protested his innocence by claiming, "No proof has ever been advanced that I ever touched her hand," although much proof was offered to the fact that he had touched more intimate places. During the trial, Porterfield's brother and friends pulled out guns and fired several shots at Ned, who was seated at the defense table. Ned jumped to his feet, and ducking and weaving, he bolted across the crowded courtroom and jumped through an open window. Once outside, he made a dash for the Old City Hotel across the street. A passing man heard the commotion and threw a rock at the escapee, hitting him in the head. Wounded, he kept going for the door of the hotel when a shot rang out and he was hit in the chest, wounding him again. He climbed up the stairs with gunmen and lawmen following in pursuit. Upon gaining access to the rooftop, he was left with no escape except to jump to another building. He took a running leap across the gap and made it to the other side, just barely clinging to the side of the other building. However, his hand slipped and he plunged 50 feet down the side of the building to the ground below. The resulting impact left him crippled for the rest of his life. The lawman picked up the badly wounded Ned, placed him in jail, and arranged for a doctor to attend to his wounds. During the night, a mob stormed the jail and dragged him outside, attempting to lynch Ned from an awning. The lawman gained control of the mob just as this took place, and he was saved before the rope choked him to death. Once he was mended, he was again placed on trial for the killing of Porterfield. This time, he was found not guilty and released. Ned Buntline wrote over 400 short stories, and it was said by a noted Western author that Ned gave away 5 guns to the Dodge City Peace Commission as a thank you for all the material they provided him for use in his dime novels. The revolvers were supposedly presented to Wyatt Earp, Bat Masterson, Bill Tillman, Charlie Bassett, and Neil Brown. The revolvers were said to be chambered in .45 Colt with 12-inch barrels, removable shoulder stocks, standard sights, and wooden grips into which the name Ned was carved. These revolvers came to be known collectively as the Buntline Special. Now, not one of the Buntline Specials was found in Colt historical records, and no known reference to them has ever been found outside of the noted Western author's book. The gifted Buntline Specials are now known to be a figment of the author's imagination. Nevertheless, the Buntline Special became a model for Colt, and they sold many of the guns right up to the present time. Buntline continued to write dime novels, but none were as successful as his earlier works. Later in life, he embellished his military career, claiming to have been chief of scouts in the Indian Wars with the rank of colonel, and to have received 20 wounds in battle. Like mobster movies today, Buntline's novels just might have had unintended consequences. Some readers were drawn to the exploits of Western outlaws, and to them, the novels glamorized their exploits. The female bandits, Jenny Stevenson and Anna Emmeline McDooley, better known as Little Britches and Cattle Annie, read many of these dime novels, which allegedly aroused their interest in the Doolin gang and might have even propelled them into their life of crime.
Sitting Bull sits with his nephew and adopted son, One Bull. One Bull was with Sitting Bull at the beginning of the Battle of the Little Bighorn.
I was 23 that summer and had been a warrior a long time. Another hunk papa named Gray Eagle and I were Sitting Bull's special bodyguards. It was our duty to watch him and see that he had protection. That morning I took the family horses to the river. At midday I went back to the pony herd and drove the horses to the river for the noon watering. Just then I heard shooting near the hunk papa camp circle. I quickly caught a pony and turned the others loose, knowing they would head back to camp. Not far away I saw dust rising and heard iron-shod hooves pounding against loose rocks. I raced back to the teepee I shared with my uncle. The hunk papa camp was in an uproar. Warriors were rushing around to catch their ponies. Women were screaming. Children were crying, and old men were shouting advice as loud as they could. Then the women and children began to run off to the west, not taking the time to strike their teepees or to carry up belongings. I reached the teepee ahead of my uncle. I grabbed my old muzzle loader and quickly checked it. Just then, Sitting Bull entered the teepee and took the old rifle out of my hands. He handed me a stone-headed war club, then took his own rawhide shield out of its buckskin case and hung it over my shoulder. "You will take my place and go out and meet the soldiers that are attacking us," he ordered. "Parley with them if you can. If they are willing, tell them I will talk peace with them."
Lone Bull and the warriors rode out to meet the soldiers and came under fire straight away. They charged the soldiers and the soldiers dismounted and made for the river.
We killed many soldiers on the riverbank and more in the water. I rode up behind one soldier and hit him with my war club. Then I slid off my pony and held the soldier's head underwater until he was dead. I killed 2 more in the water.
The beginning of the Battle of the Little Bighorn had begun. One Bull survived the battle and died an old man in 1947.
From Hardwood Creek, we crossed to the Mesquite, one of the tributaries of the South Canadian, and here we began to feel ourselves safe from an attack by a superior force of savages, as the sign was not plentiful and was very old. On this stream, we encamped in a large grove of most beautiful young cottonwoods, near which was a bluff 30 feet high with a projecting cliff, almost forming a cave. Near the foot of this cave, however, we found the skeleton of a man and of a huge bear, perhaps a grizzly. The arms of the man had been crushed and the ribs broken, while nearby lay the irons of a rifle with part of the mutilated stock and a large bowie knife of the pattern known as the Arkansas toothpick. Judging from appearances, the man had stood on the ground and shot the bear on the level of the cliff, and that the animal, though mortally wounded, had leaped down and after a desperate struggle killed the hunter. How long they had lain there was a mere matter for conjecture, but doubtless the period might be measured by years. No name was on the gun or knife, and no memorial remained to tell who the unfortunate hunter was, but the surgeon, after examining the bones, pronounced them to belong to a white man. Corporal Pike of the 4th Ohio Cavalry.